I've been thinking a lot lately about enjoyment in hobbies. And I have to say, I do think that lately we've allowed it to get a little out of hand. Hi, my name is Taylor, and today I want to talk to you about something that I think has become structurally overprioritized in creative hobbies, which is the expectation that the experience ought to be pleasant. There's this idea now that your hobby should be relaxing, fulfilling, restorative, a kind of soft landing at the end of the day. And I'll be honest, I don't love that for us. You see this mindset everywhere, literally everywhere, even in something as simple as plants. I have this succulent over here growing out of this Edgar Allan Poe planter head situation directly in front of a massive window. And people still periodically inform me that it's starved for light. It's not starved for light. It's growing towards the light because that is very famously where the light is. The plant is fine. It does not need to enjoy itself. It's not starved for light. It's just ambitious. And I do think the same slightly overprotective energy has made its way into our hobbies. Because if you sit down and you knit and you're having a genuinely nice time, I do think it's worth asking whether enough is being asked of you in that moment. Enjoyment is fine. I want to be very clear about that, but it does need to be managed, because when it becomes the primary outcome, it starts to displace more developmentally useful experiences like improvement, or resilience, or exposure to one's own limitations. So I've started thinking about my hobbies a little differently, and I encourage you to do the same. Not as something I do to relax, but as something I engage with to be corrected by, which, does change the criteria. I've been paying closer attention to indicators that suggest a project is doing what it's supposed to do. Mild frustration, persistent second guessing, a low administrative hum of inadequacy, occasional resentment, brief but clarifying hostility towards the materials. Those are useful signals. That tells me the hobby is still functioning. I do think there should be some minimum threshold of personal disruption. Nothing dramatic, just enough to confirm that the craft still has access to you. Because if I pick something up and immediately feel calm and capable and emotionally self-regulated, I do tend to question whether the project is sufficiently rigorous. A hobby ideally should leave some kind of mark, not a huge one, but enough that when you set it down, you've been altered slightly. Enough that there's a little bit of trauma to address later. Just enough that it remains in the memory. I've made a few small adjustments. If something feels easy, I assume I'm not pushing far enough. If something feels enjoyable, I do tend to question whether it's actually doing anything for me. And if something feels frustrating, I stay with it at all costs, because that's usually where the value is. I've also started informally tracking what I would call resistance quality. Not all frustration is equal. Some of it is decorative. I'm looking for something a little more structurally informative. And I do think this shows up in how we talk about our hobbies. There's a lot of emphasis on knit what you love, make what makes you happy. It's supposed to be fun. And I understand the intention, but I do think we've become a little comfort forward. And I'm not entirely convinced that that's the role that craft is supposed to play in our lives. Frankly, I think we may have infantilized leisure. I don't think a hobby should be allowed to become a sanctuary. If it's restorative every time, I'm not sure it's pulling its weight. There should be at least a small element of strain, something that asks more of you than you were planning to give. Otherwise, if you think about it, it's really just a pleasant experience. And I do think we've all seen where that leads. So I've also started evaluating my projects a little differently. Not, did I enjoy this? That feels woefully underdeveloped. More, did this humble me? Did it expose a structural weakness in my character? Did it identify an area where I had, frankly, become a little overconfident? Did it leave me with a small but measurable decline in self-regard? Did it produce any meaningful personal fallout? If not, I'm not sure it went far enough, because I don't think a hobby is there to make you happy. I think it's there to refine you, to expose a flaw, apply some pressure, return you to yourself slightly worse, but more aware. If you happen to enjoy that, I think that says a little bit more about you than it does the hobby. So no, I don't think your hobby needs to be fun. I think it should, from time to time, put you in your place. Ideally, before you get there on your own. I'm not very good at winking and making it look cool, but happy April Fools, everybody.